So I can welcome our first guest. How shall I say? He's from France, Tokyo, New York. He's from all over the place. An international figure, Alex from Tokyo.
Indeed.
So Alex, it's a bit difficult to start because I always have the feeling it's difficult to explain what you do. I always feel like you're Alex from Tokyo is on the tip of the iceberg, because there's so much else that you do that's kind of underneath and that not so many people know about. But for me, I just figured out how all the different projects that you were involved in 10 years after. So maybe you can tell the people how you got involved with music. Was it also one of those situations that you were sitting in front of a record player as a kid, or how did it start?
I mean, it started when I was a little boy growing up in Tokyo. Actually, my dad was a big inspiration, and he's a big blues and I would say rock music fan, and from a very early age, there was music in the house all the time, and my parents loved to party too, and they would organize parties. My dad would be somehow the DJ of the party, and I would follow my parents to the parties, and that's how kind of like everything.
But you have to tell the people you were actually born in France, in Paris, or?
Yes. I was born in Paris, and I moved to Tokyo when I was 4 years old with my parents for my father's job. And I went to the French-Japanese school in Tokyo, graduated, went to Paris to do my university studies, and after that, in '95, I went back to Tokyo. And this is when I seriously, started to work in music. So I was a student for a year, and at the same time I was working in a record store in Tokyo called Mr. Bongo. It's the Mr. Bongo from London. They opened up in '95 a shop in Tokyo, and I was working there, and that's kind of like how everything
also the record shop
started to connect, because when I was in Paris from '91 to '95, that's when the whole Parisian scene started to kind of like come together and started to explode. And it was a really, really small scene. We all knew each other, and we were kind of like all playing together, in small little parties, and things started to grow.
But so, Paris and Germany, or let's say Paris and Tokyo is not like Paris and Germany. It's a completely different culture, also musically,
yes.
Right? And aren't the people in Japan, the club culture, isn't it totally different to what you're used to in Europe?
End of the '80s in Tokyo, I started to get into club music and pop music at that time. A lot from the US, and then of course a bit from the UK mainly, and starting to go to discos, and then to underground clubs, and already at that time in mid '80s to late '80s, lots of like DJs from the US, especially DJs from New York, would come play in clubs in Tokyo, and so I was kind of like bang right in the middle of. I will always remember the switch from a normal disco to a real underground club. I will really it changed completely my life.
Was there one moment that you can recall?
There's different images, but of course, the decor, the sound system. The lighting, the people too. There was this crazy guy under like a little mirror ball with the laser, and he was like playing with the laser all night with his hands, And
that was in Tokyo.
In Tokyo, yeah, crazy guys, and you like 16, 17, and I mean, you've never seen all of this, you know. I was completely fascinated and had like Japanese friends, French friends, American friends, and they were all like listening to all kinds of different music. And I was always kind of like in the middle of all those different groups. So I would listen to all those different music all the time. So of course, you know, a lot of my Japanese friends were listening a lot of hip hop, but at the same time, I was listening to some like new wave with my more European friends as well, you know. And then the whole house music thing came, and wow,
that took off.
Yeah, it completely changed. And you know, and we started to organize tons of parties as well, you know, at school, in Tokyo, and yeah, I mean, it's a long story.
It's a long story, and I guess we don't really have time to cover all of that.
But you know, but going to Paris, I found the same, you know, the same spirit, the same vibe with all those DJs back then, you know, like DJ Deep, Laurent Garnier, you know, and from there, you know, I was really part of this community, and you know, with friends and sharing this music, and it was really, I mean, and it's still very much part of me, you know. I mean, you also produce music. We have your album right here that was released on Innervisions. Maybe some of you have heard of people like Dixon or Arm. And
I'm not sure. Maybe. And you released an album as Tokyo Black Star, and maybe I should have introduced you with that as well. Exactly. Was it more that you got involved with DJing, or was it more that you said, I have to produce music myself?
No, you know, I always wanted to produce music. I didn't really have the chance as well, the time working in a record store, DJing. As well, you know, that's another part of my activities. But I do a lot of like coordination, like international coordination. So back then, you know, already when I came back to Paris, to Tokyo in the mid '90s, I started through the record store to help labels and artists from Europe to
import them into Japan.
Exactly. And for like 4 years, I represented the French label F Communications. I did this other project called the Bossa Tres Jazz with the Yellow Production in France.
But that was a collaboration project also with Japanese artists being remixed by French artists.
Exactly, French, you know, European, you know, German artists too, of course. So I mean, it started from there, and of course, you know, all my friends were making music, and you know, I always really wanted to, and didn't really find the time to really study it as well, and I never learned to play an instrument as well, you know, and I always wanted to, and
then you met your production partner that we also see in the picture right here.
Yeah.
That's in your studio.
Actually, this is the studio of a really good friend of his from his childhood, who lives like right next to him, and
he collects gear as well.
And he's a crazy music equipment freak, and yeah, I mean
But that's very Japanese, right?
I mean, part of it. I mean, you know, of course, you know, the whole otaku, you know, obsessed, you know, side. But yeah, I mean, and he's a real musician. You know, he's a studio musician too, and you know, on the side, you know, he makes like drum machines and
he makes drum machines.
Like synthesizers as well, and he's a big fan of Yellow Magic Orchestra, this legendary Japanese group that, you know, we all got really influenced because, I mean, they were everywhere, you know, when we grew up in Tokyo. And one of his hobbies to kind of like recreate a lot of their albums too.
Really? You know? He just recreated, okay.
Just for his own
with
passion,
with
you know?
Self-made synthesizers.
Yeah, and plus with the original synthesizers they were using as well back in the days. So
okay.
He knows a lot. So you know, it's Tokyo Black Star. It's this project between Isao Kumano, which is a highly respected sound engineer in Japan, and myself, and Takagi-kun as well, he does help us. But it started really as a kind of like a more like a jam type of a project. It's like we want to do what we can't do by ourselves and just collaborate with each other and just have vision, and try not to do only like music for clubs to make people. It was more about, I was a DJ, and I really wanted to do something else, like bring something else to the table. I didn't want to do like another kind of like house track that my really good friends were really doing great.
So that's not really the goal when you produce music. It's not that you say, "Oh, this has to be a club tune."
No,
it's
not
mostly
at all.
about
I mean,
music
it's we talk a lot. I mean, we're completely different with Isao. I mean, you've met him too, and I mean, he's a very like serious guy, very technical guy. His studio is completely custom made. From cables, from everything. He learned everything by himself, and he made his studio by himself. With his hands,
But how important do you think that is for music production? I mean, nowadays you have to mostly buy a version of a software or so, and then you already can make music.
Yeah.
How do you think how important it is to actually spend that much time to build your own studio?
I mean, it's a passion.
You can get totally lost in there.
I mean, and he likes it, and he likes, like tweaking his machines and changing cables, and he makes his own cables too, and that's where I mean, he has his own sound as well. Nobody can copy what he does, because it's pretty much everything original.
But how does it work when you're both sitting in the studio? I mean, obviously he's the technical guy.
I mean, definitely.
And you, where do you come in? You say,
I'm the one bringing a lot of the time, ideas, colors, and we do talk a lot. We see each other like once every 2 months approximately, and it's funny because we start to talk about things in life, in music, in art, in film, paintings, about it's generally it starts from there, and then we start to improvise couple of things.
So you don't go into the studio and say, okay, let's do a tune that's about 110 BPM, and then you program the beats. It's more that you kind of get into a special mindset.
I'm feeling kind of like I want to make something like slow and nice, and I mean.
And you just start to jam.
And we kind of like start from there, and and I mean, what we do a lot too is we have a couple of like synths, and what we do is we try to find some nice hooks that we like, and we record them, like bam, 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 and then from there, we take the part we like, or sometimes we keep a long part without editing it, and we add, some drums on top, and it's very organic, and I mean, it's pretty old school. I will have to say too, and.
But you started working with, talking equipment with a company called Phonon. That's maybe you explain, because it's a lot of equipment that you produce, and for me it's a bit. I mean, it's obviously objects that I would like to try out.
Okay.
But it's also a little bit of voodoo, or
I mean, it's
right?
It's on the.
Maybe you just start off how it started and what the project is that you are.
Okay, so to keep it simple, and so through Isao,
your production partner,
exactly. Like 3 years ago, 3 like professional veteran audiophiles guys contacted him for their new kind of like equipment inventions, and one of them is this like 65 years old professional audiophile. He lives in Nagano. He has his little electronic store and his little like atelier behind, and he repairs everything. He fixes everything from computers to drum machines to speakers,
So a bit like Isao as well, and he's really into
yeah,
gear.
And this guy's been kind of like in the audio field in Japan for like more than 40 years, always looking for better sound delivery, you know, like always trying to improve things. And the inventor, Mr. Ando, like presented, I mean, this device called the PhD. And everything kind of like started from there. They started to kind of collaborate. Isao basically tweaked his invention for his own studio use.
What is the invention?
Okay, so it's a very sensitive metal device that you connect to your speakers. It delivers a never experienced before honest reproduction of the sound.
Okay.
So it's not changing the sound, it's not altering the sound. Basically, it makes you feel the sound better. Okay. Basically, it's the true reproduction of the original waveform of the sound.
But it's not a device that actually produces the sound.
It doesn't produce sound. What it does, not to go too technical, you connect the pair to your pair of speakers, to the plus and minus of your speakers, and what it does, it vibrates and reacts in harmony to the sound waves coming out of your speakers. And what it does, in vibrating, it transmits some ultra sound waves, and what it does in the end, those ultra sound waves go on top of the sound waves, and it aligns all the frequencies. So basically, you feel all the different frequencies at the same time. It disturbs the waveforms, and it creates some kind of some delays as well, and plus frequencies, they don't travel at the same time too.
All right.
But what it does in the end, it's a much more detailed and open sound scope. So it's definitely much more detailed and wider in terms of the stereo image too. So basically, you can tweak more. Like for example, like Isao was telling me, you know, he's a mastering engineer too, and when he does mastering, there's lots of like kind of like reverbs, like that you can't really tweak, and because it's so detailed, you can really go into them, and so your final work, your final mix is definitely much more precise.
Okay.
Exactly. So it's, you know, this is kind of like the main invention, and from there we have like more accessible.
But only available in Japan, right?
I mean it's available on our website, and the PhD mainly in Japan, and I'm representing the brand, and I'm trying to have the brand available all over the world. And
so this is the other little thing.
Yeah,
what is this about?
We have
you have a lot
lines,
of projects,
you know. Yeah, we have different lines, you know, because you can tune them and you can make them like more effective for like low frequencies and some others for high frequencies. You know, I don't want to talk too much about them as well. The better your setup is, the more efficient it is. You know, it's high-end stuff, you know.
So it wouldn't work on my little compact stereo at home?
No.
Okay.
No.
This is something that we actually have here, and that we are also giving away to one lucky winner. It's not nail polish. Yeah,
it's no oil.
It's no oil, oil-free it says. But what is this exactly? Because I think this really does make sense to me at all. I mean, the rest I just have to to listen at first, actually, and then I have to make up my mind.
Demo. It's called the Phonon liquid. It's a contact cleaner, a contact improver. Basically, it's a electrical junction restructuring liquid. So the more you use your cables, the more they get damaged. And when you look, you have little holes where
scratches.
Where the contacts are made, you know. And basically, this liquid, it's oil-free, so it doesn't damage your cables or your connection. It covers up all those little holes you have. And basically, it makes a better electricity, you know, fluidity, and it makes a better.
And actually,
sound
does make a
delivery.
difference. I did try this at home,
and it especially, you know, if you keep you know, like unplugging your equipment, your synths and everything, it does really make a difference.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's true. Oh, another.
This is something we're working on for next year.
Maybe a bit an object that's a bit easier to grasp.
Exactly, exactly.
What's the special thing about the headphones?
They are monitoring headphones,
Mm-hmm.
primarily for studio listening, professional use, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
They actually incorporate the PhD technology. So basically, the idea in your ears, in your headphones, it's
that the frequencies arrive at the same time.
The alignment, the time, phase, frequency alignment. And yeah, I mean, they're very comfortable and very detailed, really amazing kind of like low volume playback. So you can work with it for like hours, and your ears don't fatigue at all. Mm-hmm. And they're so clear that, I mean, it's you don't need to pump.
Well, I think you can actually hear
and
that in your music as well. When you listen to the sounds, it sounds very clear without being too clean, though. I think.
I mean,
do you also
we
think about that?
We use lots of like analog machines. Yeah, most stuff is analog, or it's hardware. It's pretty raw, I think.
Okay.
But with a kind of like but mixed in a high-end way, probably. That's probably how I would describe it. Yeah.
And Alex is so nice that he not only gave us one of those things to give away to a lucky winner, but also one of his CDs, Tokyo Black Star. I think we are already running out of time. Right. We're really short. So Alex will play some of his music later on, because we didn't manage to actually play it here on stage, but we thought it makes more sense to play it in the club later. So thanks, Alex from Tokyo.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.